Recently, I talked about the China deal, I talked about the FOMC meeting, and in this video, I actually want to go over them real quick just to kind of reiterate a little bit because of what's been happening around this space over the last roughly 48 hours or so. Now, this is what the daily looks like, and of course, yes, we do have the hourly over here as well, but this is the weekly. The weekly is still very, very green, which is good to see. Now, this is what I mainly want to focus on. I don't want to think about short term. I don't want to think about the last 24 hours. I don't want to, worry about what this looks like. I'm mainly focused on what's been happening over the last 7 to 14 days. So, with that, let's take a quick look at what the last week has been looking like for the top 100. So, we are actually now witnessing a lot of these altcoins actually up double-digit figures, some of them 50+%. And again, this is the top 100. The top 100 has a lot more liquidity and a lot higher market cap value tied to them, which means it's actually harder to move these. So if these are starting to move double-digit figures, then, outside of the top 100 are also moving significantly. We could actually see that on the 1 week. Let's go back to the 1 week and let's actually look at some of these top 200, top 300, top 400, top 500. I just want to dive on into like roughly the top 500 and show you guys that some of these top 500s in the last week are up 60 plus, 50 plus, 40 plus, 30 percent plus moves, with a lot of them being double digits. And even if we look at outside of like the top 500, let's go to like the top 1,000. Some of these are up significantly. Now, obviously, the market cap difference here is pretty significant, which means that it's a lot easier to actually move some of these. And a lot of these are just illiquid meme coins. Top 500 as well, we're starting to see some nice gains. But we're not there at the point of like, all right, everything's just going parabolic. Everything is looking very good. And we're all happy. We're not there just yet, but we are in the beginning stages of getting there. And I'm going to talk about that. Now, this is what the overall market looks like right now. Bitcoin is still hovering just under 110K at 108K. Market cap 3.44 trillion. Ethereum about 2.7, almost 2.8K. XRP about $2.25. Again, we're still seeing some nice sell-offs here. Nothing too significant in the market in the last 24 hours, but in the last 7 days, obviously, like I said, we are seeing some nice gains. Now, the altcoin season index is slightly, around like 29 out of 100. We're not in the altcoin season index spot yet on this index chart, which would be about like 75 to 100. But once we do get to that point, it's going to be very, very exciting. And, again, we don't actually have the look from back in like December or even, like January. But during that time, the altcoin season index was flashing pretty green. So we want to see that yet again. But overall, we're starting to see a lot of the red in the last, 90 days in terms of the top 100. A lot of this is actually starting to move towards the green spot again, which is, it's very good to see. It means that we're starting to see some pretty big bounces in the market and a rebound in the market as well. And outside of this, let's actually go over to a few of, the charts as well as a few posts that I did make. Now, number one, I made this post just the other day and I said for the last few weeks, I've made it clear on the YouTube channel that June will be a huge month for crypto. I specifically said that alt season will start sometime around the end of this month into the beginning of July. We are starting to see some altcoins jumping 50% plus today alone, like Axelar, for an example. The early signs are showing right now, while many are sidelined or simply not paying attention. And if we actually go back over here and we go to Axelar, for an example, now Axelar is down a bit, but in the last, 7 days, it's up 45, almost 46%. And it was up, we went from a low of 30 cents to over 62 cents. So it jumped significantly in a very short amount of time. This is because we're starting to see a little bit more focus put on altcoins, and we're starting to see volume picking up around some altcoins as well. We're not yet in the territory of saying, all right, alt season's here, but we are getting very close to that. Now, the big thing is Bitcoin dominance. So this is what we look like right now on the daily chart for Bitcoin dominance. We are hitting a nice little resistance spot here. I would still like to see, this pattern hold of higher lows. And then, of course, we want to take out these lows recently from, May. This is like the middle of May. We want to break through this, this would be a loss of 60, almost 2%. That is a drop on this chart currently. And I know that this might not seem like a lot, but this would be a drop of 3.45% from where we currently are. That is a very big drop for altcoins, because even back here in November, when everything was going crazy, you got to remember that this total drop was about 11.32%. The initial drop, which allowed a lot of altcoins to actually, really push higher, was about 5.2%. So 3.45% would be significant to just start. And then if we lose this level, I do think that we go significantly lower to retest the next level, which would be about a 6% drop. But we just want to see confirmation of Bitcoin dominance being officially topped out, confirming alt season is going to happen. Now, when we think about that, obviously we are focused on a lot of the altcoins I do talk about on this channel. I've been addressing, for example, XRP, HBAR, XLM, things like that. When it comes to HBAR, for example, HBAR is very, very coiled up here, right? We're just trading sideways in a downtrend, consolidating. The same goes for XRP, right? We do have a higher low here, which we, want this to hold. But all we're doing here is just trading in this uptrend chop. Does this remind you guys of anything? Well, if it doesn't, then let's actually zoom all the way out on the weekly, because on the weekly, you could really kind of see what I mean by this uptrend chop. We had plenty of uptrend chops throughout, 2022 to where we currently are. For example, here's the first uptrend chop that we were in, right? And then we got the XRP is not a security. We break to the upside. Again, we're chopping. This one was actually a downtrend chop leading into a slight uptrend chop. And then we get that big breakout. But for the most part, it's just consolidation. And that's exactly what we are doing right now in that nice sort of uptrend chop. And we're just watching to see a big break to the upside here. We might chop a little bit more, but for the most part, I'm still expecting a lot of the altcoin market to really wake up towards the end of this month. I'm obviously going to be keeping a close eye on XRP during that time, but outside of XRP, we also have to keep a close eye on stocks, because now stocks are starting to rally a little bit. The S&P 500, for example, this is going to be the big one, right? This is so close to making a new all-time high. We are less than, roughly almost 2%. We're at 2.03% away from making a new all-time high for stocks. That's going to be a lot of fuel for crypto to also catch up and go parabolic. Now, we might chop a little bit more before we get there, because as you guys can see, we're going all the way back here to roughly the beginning of June. This was a total of like a 3% run up, and this took from June 3rd or June 2nd to June 11th. So, this could be a little bit more of a wait, but so far stocks do look pretty good. Now, on top of that, we do know that the US and China, were holding trade talks in London just recently on the 9th. And I did say, and I'm not going to reiterate this because, again, if you guys do want to go and listen closely to the other video, I did outline this. I said that this is going to be one of the largest catalysts that we have in front of us for, markets. Now, we did get a big update from Howard Lutnick. Actually, we have Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick says so many new trade deals are coming. Check this out.
You guys have set the deadline for early July to have more trade deals. We're expecting more to come. What can you tell us about the progress of any of the ones you're working on? We thought Japan, India were close. We got this framework from the UK, but what else is coming there?
Oh, there are so many coming, but when you've got Scott, Jameson, and I spending, 25 hours locked in a room with the Chinese, we're not really doing the other deals. Yes, our teams are moving them forward, but, now we're going to be focused, starting today, we're going to be focused on other deals. We're going to get them done. We're in good shape with lots of countries, but good shape isn't good enough for the United States of America. We want great deals that are fundamental for America. We can get them. We can get them done. We need to open these other countries' markets. Our farmers, our ranchers, our fishermen, they are going to have just a great time. Our machinists, we sell lots of equipment overseas. Boeing always does amazingly well in these deals. So this is the key to us. Can we open up our exports and end this nonsense of a $1.2 trillion trade deficit And that's what we're working on. And you're going to see deal after deal. This is going to start coming next week and the week after and the week after. We've got lots of them in the hopper. We just want to make sure they're the best deal we possibly can make. We don't want to rush. And Donald Trump is never going to accept the rush. He only accepts the best from us. And we're going to give it to him.
He did.
Now, on top of that, we did get a few updates. Number one, US and Mexico close to finalizing new trade deal. This was very bullish. Just got announced on the 10th. On top of that, we also got a big update that the US and China agreed in principle on a framework for new trade deal after 2 days of talks in London. They reached preliminary trade framework after London talks. The United States and China have agreed in principle on a framework related to trade following 2 days of negotiations in London, according to China's Vice Commerce Minister Li Shengang. Li stated that the framework is intended to implement the consensus reached by the leaders of both countries during a phone call on June 5th and at a prior meeting in Geneva. The outcome of the London talks will now be reported back to the respective heads of state for further review. The two sides have in principle reached a framework for implementing the consensus reached by the two heads of state during the phone call on June 5th and the consensus reached at the Geneva meeting. So, this led to this announcement from Donald Trump. We have our deal with China is done, subject to final approval with President Xi. Full magnets and any necessary rare earths will be supplied upfront by China. Likewise, we will provide, to China what we agreed to, including Chinese students using our colleges and universities, which have always been good with me. We are getting a total of 55% tariffs. China is getting 10%. Relationship is excellent. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So we reached a trade deal. This is very significant. This is very bullish as well. And then we look at the Fed. FOMC meeting next week, June 17th through the 18th. The 18th is the day that we are focused on. We have been hearing a lot of talks about, Trump calling for the Fed to cut interest rates by 1 full point. We don't know if this is going to happen. Obviously, everyone is focused on this. Inflation just came out. It was steady at 2.4% amid tariff concerns. On top of that, true inflation at 1.94%. Is now the time to be cutting rates? They might just pause, right? We might just see a pause for probably the month of June and July, and then we get the rate cuts in September. I'm totally fine with that. I think that the main thing that we actually got done here is the China deal. This is a huge one. In fact, I actually think that this is a bigger catalyst than the Fed rate cutting. But if we get both, right, because we already got the China deal, now all eyes are on the Fed. If we get a rate cut decision, this is going to blow the roof off of the markets. We are going to see a huge push to the upside on stocks and on crypto. And right now, when we really look at the crypto market, it's looking beautiful for altcoins. I do think that we are getting very close to alt season. I think everyone should be focused on a lot of these altcoins. Of course, XRP is definitely high up on the list for me. But across the board, I think that HBAR, I think that a lot of these altcoins, I think that they're going to have a massive, massive year. So definitely lock in, focus up, and really pay attention to what's happening around some of these markets. In terms of like these trade deals, these are huge for the US market, which really kind of provides confidence for stock traders as well, which means higher price action for stocks, which lead to higher price action for crypto as well. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, Nick, thanks for watching. Peace out.